Here we are. We are
Brilliant.
live once again on this jolly Saturday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to everybody in the chat that's here already. I will go through some of the names in a minute, see who's on. I'm pretty sure that everyone can hear me. Just want to welcome my two partners in crime, Chris from Banter Skull and Jason from Yak Face. John Miko, I think Jason's frozen. John Miko will be here. He's just running a little bit late. He's got other engagements to go to first, but he will be here very shortly. And we also have Lewis from the SWTVC, also known as Space Hut on Instagram. How you doing, buddy? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on as well. Yeah, appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. Before we get into the results of the last figure standing, we have the final four, which will become two, and then next week will be the grand final between the two. So before we do that, let's just have a quick look in the chat to see who's on. I'm going to apologize right now. I am a bit under the weather still. I don't feel 100%. I might have a coughing fit. If that happens, the other guys will have to bail me out and talk. But we have Bruce Damon. We have the Jawa Merchant, Dystopian Playgrounds, Cisco Deer, Ray Dunkley, Larry Hines, Brett Onfett, Daniel Chart, Stu Hu, Paul Morales, Gary Moore, Paul Nurse. Lots of familiar faces to me in here. We have Rob Mack, Paul Morales, Bjorn Jorgensen, John Lasseter, Andre, Delvian Seek, Mitchell Gum, John Charlton, Neil Lowry, Hal Runner Bass, Eka from Australia, Jake Eyes Studios, Jared Cantor, Starkiller, Kurt Fritz, Maxime, Rogue Killer, Masterpiece, Star Wars Rue, RKW 1138, Rhett Roberts, Josh B, Darth Strange, Robert Westwood, and Ham Dam, and some other people coming in. Brian Nichols and Christopher Guzman. Welcome, everybody. To
Last Figure Standing.
And just in time, Mr. John Miko's here. How you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Can indeed. How's your day? All right?
Busy, festive day. So good to see you guys.
Been on the old?
I might have had a few again.
That laptop is toast. It's going down.
I was just about to say, could you do us all a favor and not spill something on your expensive laptop? Or do it just for the comedy value.
So my publicist, Big Tuna, suggested I release a statement. I just want to assure the American people and anyone all over the world watching this that it may have appeared that I might have had a severe case of diarrhea and pooped myself. But I assure you, I did not. And I may have spilt my Moscow Mule all over my $3,000 laptop. I'm just going to say that I was merely demonstrating what happens if you don't have elbows. These are the things that happen.
Can I just say, I've never seen Chris so happy.
It's the greatest. I was there for the greatest live stream moment in history.
I didn't even go back and watch it. I was like, I don't even want to know what was said.
Chris, as he's watched it 3 times.
Well, John, the reason why everybody thinks you had an accident is because you're going, oh God, oh God, oh God, which I think we all recognize. That's what we do, when we're 5 feet short of the bathroom in an emergency.
We've all been there.
Yeah,
we've all been there. So I just want to say insurance is a good thing. Get it, because you never know. So
Just put it in a
Glad to
bag of
be-
rice. You don't need insurance. Just
Right.
put a bag of rice.
right.
It works.
So thanks for having me.
What was it that you spilt on it though? It wasn't just water, was it?
It was Tito's vodka and ginger beer.
Great combination.
Yeah. I have a stand and all this stuff, and yeah, I chose to not use it. So don't be me ever in any situation.
Okay. Right. Well, it's good to see you, anybody. I'm glad you've made it this week. I'm glad you got your laptop fixed in time. That's Apple Care
Yeah.
the palm.
That's right, baby.
Right. So we've got Lewis with us this week. We like to have a special guest on each week if we possibly can. You all know Lewis. He's from the SWTVC group. He is their English contingent or
Correspondent, if you want to say it.
correspondent.
Yeah. Token Englishman.
Token Englishman, if you like. Yeah, we're all one of those, mate. Don't worry about that. So we're gonna talk to you a little bit first before we get into it, because we like to take a look at your original top 10 that you submitted for this last figure standing. So I'm just gonna share the screen just so everybody can see that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I did get your prior permission, so. So there it is. That's Lewis's top 10.
I can hear Daniel Chart screaming down the internet as we speak. It's
yeah, he probably is. I have no doubt. Do you want to just, explain yourself?
yeah. I mean, the way I approach these things, and the way I've always approached these things is, to me, I get most excited about stuff I haven't had before. So characters I haven't had before, or versions of characters we haven't had before. And that's across the whole 3.75 line, to be honest. So, not to say I don't want definitive updates, and not to say that I don't want some of the figures that a lot of people are calling out for, but it's just the way that I often approach it. And for me, when I'm, I guess if I was in a store, I sort of picture myself, if I was in a store and on a pegs, there are a number of different figures, and I had to make a choice. To me, I'll always go for that one that's a kind of a never done before thing, or never done before figure. So that's how I always approach this from the start anyway. So straight away, it kind of knocks out a lot of those, the New Hope mains and some of the other characters that people say are calling out for. For me, I've been banging on about Dryden Voss for a long while. For a number of reasons. I like Solo as a film. It's not my favorite film, but I think it deserves more figure coverage, particularly in an articulated form. We obviously don't get enough villains, although, to be fair, the last two waves we've had a lot of villains, but we've still got a lot of villains out there that have yet to be done. And I think that Dryden again ticks that box of a main villain from a film that we just don't have at all in any form. It annoys me as well that the Black Series have got him, and I don't know how well he even sold, but I mean, it was one of those figures, and to me, it was that turning point. It was that turning point when you saw him come out, you sort of saw him in Black Series and thought, oh, that's okay, we'll get him in 3.75 at some point, and it just never happened. And for me, he's kind of symbolic of that turning point of when TVs, well, not so much TVCs, it wasn't necessarily TVC at that point, but when 3.75 started to miss out on the new characters or the newer characters and the newer media at the time. So for me, he represents that. So he's been on my list now for about the last 3 years, and will be. I don't see him coming anytime soon, but if we keep banging on about him, perhaps when there's an anniversary coming or something like that, we can push him. So Kino Loy is a great figure. Great character. I mean, we've got to have that character. I think he deserves a figure. I think he's great. I love Dandor, one of my favorites. So, get Kino Loy in there. Ben Solo, everyone's favorite. Obviously, I know a lot of people are probably going, what? I see Daniel Charles comments there. But
Evan didn't pay you for that one, though.
No, I've always backed him up. I mean, again, he's a main character. You know, it's like the film or not. And again, for me, I kind of experienced Star Wars and Star Wars figure collecting around the figures. To me, I don't hinge that as much on whether the media is my favorite or whether I like it. To me, it's just I like everything Star Wars, and I kind of want representation of everything. That's how I enjoy it. So for me, I actually liked his character. I mean, the sequels are not my favorite films, but I don't hate them. But I think he's he's a figure that just deserves to be made, and I'd love to have him on a shelf. I just think he's look cool. Luthen, he's the only one I think out of my top 10 that made it into your top 10. I mean, again, Andor, he deserves a figure. I don't know why. You know, again, it's one of those you see him in 6-inch. Why have we not got him? Kira, again, same as Dryden. I like to see some solo representation there. I know Victoria had her on the list as well. I know there are people out there that call for this figure. And I think, you know, it's sort of one of those that, again, it's just a figure that should be in the line, really. More solo figures. Palpatine Sith Eternal. I mean, again, it's a Tross figure. A lot of people do or don't like it. But for me, it rounds off the main villain of the Star Wars, you know, the Skywalker saga. So we should have him, you know, again, whether or not you like how he was brought back and all the rest of it, I just think he deserves a figure. Again, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, same thing. I like Kylo Ren, actually. I think he's quite a good villain. I quite like the way that they portrayed him, you know, in terms of how he turned back to Ben Solo and just the anguish. I actually thought he was a good character. And I like that look. And again, I don't think the one we've got in TVC is brilliant. So perhaps this one we could get him right and get some decent articulation and, you know, just do him justice. The Client, I mean, again, is one that a lot of people I think are still calling out for because he does fill that gap or one of those gaps that's missing, I think, from those scenes in The Mandalorian. And again, I just thought he was kind of, I was a bit disappointed they killed him off so quickly. I thought he was quite a cool character, and I think he really had that kind of Imperial officer, you know, should I say Nazi, but he had that feel about him, didn't he? He had that kind of real dark side. And I would have liked to see him go on a bit more before Gideon came in. But he deserves a figure, and I think he would be great, you know, just to round out that cantina. Sergeant Melshi is a little bit of, I think I spoke to John about this, he's a little bit of a curveball. I like him as a character. I want to see more Rogue One figures, and there's a lot more Rogue One figures I would like to see. But again, using that thing of never done before figures, we have a Bodhi, we have a Baze Malbus, albeit they need updated in articulated form. But for me, this one, he's never been done. We should have a figure of him. And I think it again would lead into us being able to get more Rebel soldiers. And I think that's something that we need in the line just across the board. We need Rebel commandos, we need Rebel soldiers, you know, from Rogue One, and even again from some of the sequels. And I think that he would be perhaps a springboard to be able to do that. And since we saw him again in Andor, he's become a bit more, you know, he's got a bit more of a story arc to him now. I hope we'll see him again in Andor season 2. And again, I just think it's his time. I think we should see him. And then Second Sister, I mean, again, I love the games. I love Fallen Order and Survivor. Second Sister is another one in the Black Series that they got that we didn't, and I just feel she needs to be done. I still want the other Cal. I still want Cal Kestis from Fallen Order. And I'll be honest, you know, I love those games. I could easily put 10 gaming figures in here because they are, you know, I want to see more of those in the line, to be honest. But yeah, so that's really where I come at it from.
There's a few on there that you know, Luthen was on mine. I love that you've got Melshi on there. He was great in Rogue One anyway.
Yeah,
he's kind of like like that outfit's kind of like an urban, like Rebel Hoth, isn't it? Like
yeah, and I think
jungle version of that with the goggles and stuff.
I think you could use that to create a 4-pack of some sort with some, you know, different hats, different bandoliers, that kind of thing, and mix it up. And we're crying out for some articulated, you know, rebels. We have the fleet troopers, which are still on the swivel hips. Our obviously commandos are the same, and we all hoped we'd get them in 40th anniversary, and that didn't happen. So again, looking just for, is there a way that Hasbro can get some of those Rebels of some sort into the line?
Here,
Yeah,
here.
and I did want to play this after you were talking about Palpatine, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Because you actually
It's
did
the
actually
worst
say
line
that.
ever.
Like
How he returned. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's I love it or hate it. The thing is, for me, and as I say, to me, I don't always link the films to the figures. And when I look back at, you know, collecting, I mean, Shadows of the Empire stuff, when that was out back in the Power of Fools 2 days, I didn't know anything about it, but I love the figures. I just love the fact that it was an expansion of what we had. You know, okay, the figures, you look back now and you think, yeah, okay, they're rubbish, really. But to me, it's always that newness and just something new. And again, I love those legacy comic packs. I think that some of those were great. And I don't know a huge amount about some of those characters. So for me, it doesn't matter that I didn't really enjoy certain parts of that film. I just think that as a figure, I think he would look great.
Tim, can you bring up Victoria's second comment from 1010?
I can.
Just to show Lewis that he was getting some love in the comments. Oh, the next one. The next one from her.
Thank you, Victoria.
I mean,
all of these are great.
Yeah, and we joke about certain things, but you know, I've said so many times before, everybody wants different things. I just feel that obviously that the problem that we've all got is that there's such a wealth of media now that it is so difficult to sort of hone in your choices, and equally difficult for Hasbro to actually do it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be asking for characters like Luthen at this point, really, should we? I mean,
no.
You know, back in the day, I know we always use that back in the day, but I mean, Dryden would have been made, Luthen would have been made. You just, those main characters, they're pivotal to the films or programs that they're in, and yet, you know, at this point we're begging for them almost, and that's where it's a nice position to be in, that we've got so much, that we're getting so much, but obviously we just feel like there's so much being left behind. And that's why, say, for Solo, I know that that's not going to happen. You know, Hasbro are not working on Solo figures as we speak, and I'm sure it's not even on their radar, but I don't want them to forget them. I want, at some point, I would like them to try and pick up on some of those figures.
And is there not anything from the Mandalorian, because we've got so much already that you kind of and equally, there's nothing from Ahsoka on there, is there, that I can see?
No, I tried to give Hasbro the benefit of some of the newer stuff. Again, we'll talk later, obviously, with some of the figures that are still left in this, but you know, Baylan, Shin, characters like, I certainly want those, but for me, I like to try and at least give Hasbro the benefit. Last year, my top 25 didn't have Luthen or Kino Loyen, because I thought, well, I'll give them 12 months, you know, see if we can get those figures. But we're now at the point when we don't have them, so perhaps I need to stop giving Hasbro the benefit of the doubt on those.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking about it. Yeah, cool. Anybody else? Have you guys got any comments on those, or anything you want to ask Lewis before I move on?
I'd buy them all. Hashtag pallets.
Right. Next on the agenda, and we feel that we do need to talk about this. I'm just gonna bring up some images quickly. Let's see if I can share these. We need to talk about this before we get onto the reason why we're on the live stream, because I personally think that this deluxe figure has created, or it's the most talked about deluxe or whatever in ages. Like, I've looked at other people's comment sections, other people's videos, posts, Instagram posts, my own comment section, and people are not happy at all about this, and particularly the price. Any of you guys got any thoughts on it? Should we have a little discussion about it? Chris, do you want to start?
It's so we, in one of our Q&As we asked about, would Boba Fett ever come back to the basic line, and they said that the assembly, it's a complicated assembly, and labor costs are rising, so they don't think they could ever do that in the basic line of Boba Fett again, in the basic line. I kind of took him at face value, okay, but then we just had a bunch of mainline Mandalorians announced. What's the difference in the assembly? Why are we getting the judge and the captain and all those figures? How are we getting those in mainline if the assembly is prohibitively expensive? Then we had Sabine go to Deluxe, and they said it was the paint apps, and it is very complicated paint applications on Sabine. I'll grant them that. So I kind of like, okay, I'll buy that. Now I'm starting to feel like I'm a chump for taking them at their word, because we look at this, what's the paint app? There's basically one single paint app, a couple paint apps on here with the silver. The blasters are molded plastic. They're not painted, as near as I can tell. And what differentiates this figure from the ones we are going to be getting in mainline this very same year, as far as assembly, I can't tell. I mean, they could have made this to me. They could have made this value for Deluxe if we got the Camino backpack. We got both jetpacks, the Camino jetpack, and some more accessories. Maybe I could have bought it, but I'm just not seeing it. And then something that I know John has his haunches up about it. The saddlebag holsters on this too. They're just enormous.
Hey there, saddlebags. Sorry.
So it's hard. Like I said, I try to give Hasbro the benefit of the doubt and take them at their word, but on this one, it's hard to sort it out.
Yeah,
it hurts too when we don't have like the, how do I say this, the normal outfit Django in the line, right? We have a very scene specific one from TVC 1.0, right, where it's got the he's got the hooks to fly into the Camino space station there, and all of that gear, but we don't have a nice blister carded version of just regular Django. And maybe it's something that could happen in the future. I'm only saying that too because, well, obviously they've built him out here, but his left what do you call it, gauntlet has that oversized kind of piece to put the flamethrower in. So maybe there's a possibility of, I don't know, an exclusive Django in the future that's at the little higher price point. I don't know what it is anymore, $21.99 or $19.99 to offer him on a blister card. But yeah, I definitely agree with everything Chris has said. I mean, we've gotten Cad Bane in the line at $16.99, and I think he has some hoses as well, which I get is a little extra assembly. But I don't see him being as more technical than VC 186. I could be wrong though. So.
Well, he's a newly tooled figure as well, isn't he, Cad Bane?
Yeah, and he's newly tooled.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy shares what? I think we spoke about this. He has the same lower legs as the Mandalorian figures, right? The Super Commando.
Yeah.
He's got the same torso and upper arms. So there's not a ton of new tooling here. I don't know about the backpack either. Is that same leveraging as well? Not sure.
Looks like Fett's smart to me.
It will have the new Half Moon attachment point, so I don't think they can use the existing one they have for that because it has the circular plug.
How about you, Jason?
I'm in agreement. The deluxe price, it seems abusive for what it is. I mean, the little extra flame effects and the flamethrower attachment, they could fit in a bubble. And like Chris said, I understand the assembly costs and whatever, but assembly costs plus, but then paint apps negative. It's like there would be a trade-off in costs there. I don't think that the extra $6 pays for, it pays for those blast effects for Hasbro, but it's not $5 or $6 worth of extra value by any means. I would much rather have a carded release with a slightly oversized bubble, kind of like how they did with the Sith Trooper
Weapons
with
pack
those
one.
extra weapons.
Yeah.
I'm slowly losing much interest in the boxed version of these deluxe figures. They don't need to be boxed anymore. I mean, that was kind of, because of the whole switch to package, the plastic free. I think that was kind of a gentle lead in with some of the vintage collection stuff. And, obviously that didn't come to play or come to pass for the standard line. But I just don't think there's that value.
But if they did put it on a card with a bubble, do you think they would still try and justify the price?
I don't know. Because I think part of the price point is shelf space and peg space that they kind of factor in for some of that stuff, and I just think that, are you going to sell more at full price for these? Or are you going to sell more of these at standard regular price? If you kept them at the standard action figure price point, vintage collection price point.
Yeah,
well, you'll sell more cards all day long just because people will buy them to keep carded as well. I mean, how many people keep these boxes and I'll buy one and keep it in a box, and they don't.
I've got to be honest, guys. This one really does worry me. It really does, because the amount of people that I've actually seen that have said, I'm just not buying it. I'll wait for it to go to clearance at Ross or whatever, because they've seen those other deluxe ones, which were probably, when you think about it, the Stormtrooper with the E-Web cannon, there's a lot more value in there, in my opinion. And they probably, and when they first came out, what were they? $19.99, I think they were, maybe $21.99, something like that. They certainly weren't $25.99. And to me, like, when I made my video the other day, I think I wasn't too harsh on it, because I was just, I was making the video and I said this should have been on a card, basically. There's nothing deluxe enough about this for it to be in one of them boxes. And what that basically means, if it's on a card, then it should be cheaper naturally, in my opinion. And people were bringing up like Shea Vizsla, which they reissued recently. To me, that's got a lot more intricate paint apps on it.
Yep.
You get all the flame effects in that one. Swappable head, and that was a regular price. Still has to be assembled, and it doesn't go the other way. Like when you look at like R5D4, how old that sculpt is, and the minimal paint apps on that, and that's not cheaper than a regular. That's still $16.99. And they must have sold a bunch of those to everybody that bought the N1. So this does worry me. And if there is anybody from Hasbro watching, I really think you should reconsider this like strategy of this, because I just cannot see, like, every time one of these comes out and people moan at the price, there's always a reason for it. Now, Chris, you brought up assembly costs, and that's fine. Then you've got, that one's a bigger figure, with like Chrysanthemum and Paz, which potentially you could look at and say, well, maybe there's more value there or whatever. And then, as you mentioned, it's the intricacy of the paint apps with Sabine. You get a little Lothcat as well, as but for them to put his poncho and the other jetpack in here, I just think it's criminal. I just can't believe, I can't believe this is all we're getting for $25.99. And it just worries me. It's going to it will turn people off. It's just, you know, it's just about as harsh as I can get with it, really. I just, you know, people, even my mate Nick, Only One Kenobi, he said in his video he's not going to buy this, and like he buys you know, he's one of the biggest fans of TVC. You know, he buys everything and makes videos about it, reviews things, and he said he'll wait for this to go on sale or whatever, or hopefully be repacked onto a card with, you know, maybe a stand, you know, because I would prefer it if they didn't have that massive gauntlet and do away with the fire effect. I don't need that. I would have preferred that Django just on a card, and that's it. $16.99. I think nobody would have complained, and everyone would have bought loads of them.
I think the problem as well is that when they announced him as a deluxe, didn't they? So everyone knew he was going to be deluxe, and therefore, in your mind, you're always thinking, okay, what's he going to come with?
Yeah,
and I think there was already a lot of talk out there of people saying, oh, well, good chance he's going to get a second jetpack or a headgear or poncho, because they're the things you kind of expect to be thrown into a deluxe pack. Look at the Ahsoka figure we got. I mean, it had the little lamp and just those few little extra bits with, and she had the cloak in that one as well, didn't she? So again, you think soft goods, a couple of accessories, that kind of just about makes it, you know, worthwhile. But yeah, it's like they forgot to put them in. Yeah,
there's just no sort of added value for that extra.
No,
I think I said to you privately in a chat, you know, even if this was $20, I think people would be kicking off about it, because I just don't think there's enough in there to be, as you say, Chris. The paint, there's some silver paint on a purple figure. You know, I didn't even notice the saddlebags, but you know, now you've brought that up, John. I can't sort of unsee them. They are too big for the blasters, and as Chris said as well, the blasters aren't painted. You know, they are. He does have chrome blasters, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's bit of a shame, that one, because as you said, Lewis, like we all knew it was going to be deluxe. They revealed it as a deluxe, so everyone's waiting to see what comes with it, you know. And we've seen what other deluxe figures come with, whether it's, you know, the Tusken with a small creature, even the Fett, which some of it's been reused, but there's some of that figure that's still only ever been used on that figure, I believe. You know, at least you've got a couple of Stormtrooper helmets with that or whatever, you know, some fire effects or whatever. But
yeah,
this, it just doesn't seem to be anything to justify the $25.99, and I'm just not surprised that this. For me, this is the biggest talking point I've seen in ages in terms of like disappointment over what's included versus the price, or you know, perceived value.
and remember, kids, the figure does not fly.
Unless you're the Kiwi man and throw it off your balcony.
Yeah, we had a lot of moderating on this announcement in the Facebook group, and I mean, it got almost 300 comments too. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that just are not happy with the pricing.
So we shall see what they do in the future. I mean, I'm not expecting them to just come out and reduce the price of it or anything like that. But I think they just need to look at where they're going with this, because you'll just drive people away. Essentially, that's what I'm saying.
And the other part of it too, right, is typically we get the figure in the main line, then they create a derivative of it in deluxe. So
yeah,
I don't know if that always happens, right? So Sabine, I think we're getting her on
a version of her, yeah,
exclusive, or a version of her down the road as well.
John, you're kind of combining the exclusive deluxe. Those are the core exclusives. These are more the mainline deluxe.
Mainline deluxe, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's kind of interesting that they just, you know, they could make a boatload up.
But what would they take out, John? If they put it on a card anyway, what would they take off to make it a lower price? I mean, there's nothing really.
Yeah, that's true. I guess what I'm saying is then they would go with a deluxe and put all the things we've also been talking about. But yeah, I guess the big forearm flame effect and the gauntlet. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so I personally would have, been quite happy without that, with the normal size gauntlet, without that big flame. You still provide the little flames that come out of the jetpack, which I'm sure are exactly the same ones that come with the FET. So
yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean. There doesn't seem to be a lot of newness here, is it? Because that's the other thing, isn't it? It's like, oh well, that's Chrysanthemum. It's an all new figure. The FET at the time is an all new figure. So there's all these reasons why, you can sort of say, okay, well that's why they're charging a bit more for that one or whatever. But this, I just don't see it because there's a lot of reuse, not much paint going on. Anyway, I've had my rant about it. So
yeah, like you mentioned having like a retail version and a deluxe version. Have this one be the retail version as it stands without the flame effects and the flamethrower effects, but then have the deluxe include the everything here plus those flame effects and the poncho and the headgear and the other jetpack. So it warrants the second purchase.
Yeah.
And
exactly, yeah.
You could still have who knows, maybe they'll have a mainline version with this without those accessories with the other jetpack, but obviously it wouldn't include the soft goods because that would because why couldn't they just put it in here? It could have happened differently, obviously, and people would have been happier.
Did this come out after the Q&A? It came out the day of the Q&As.
Same time, yeah.
After the questions had to be submitted.
Yeah.
It was tied in with the Disney thing, wasn't it? Who knows? They could have maybe done it on the previous week. Who knows? Playing devil's advocate there, but
can I ask too how much a mainline Black Series figure is now?
Depends. They're about $25.49 is what Target charges. Basically, $24.99 is like the regular price for the most part.
Yeah, because I recall seeing quite a few comments about this being, obviously looking at it, it looks like a regular figure from mainline, and it's the same price as a Black Series mainline figure.
One of the things I think, we were talking about the other jetpack that I think is hilarious is some of these photos are clearly posed after the Kamino fight. Like, when he's flying backwards shooting at Obi-Wan.
Yep.
And he doesn't come with the Kamino jetpack.
Great point.
yeah, and I can see a comment in there. This stuff needs to be talked about at some point, because otherwise they'll just continue to do this sort of thing, and it's been a huge topic of conversation in the community all week, so it had to be addressed, really. But we shall move on. Any lasting thoughts about Django Fett before we do move on?
Is this super chat that just came in? Is that about Django Fett? I'm trying to read it really quick.
Well, let's have a look. Marco Martinez, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, hello guys, Marco from the Bronx. I will buy all of those figures shown, as new TVC is good for the line. Tim, Yakface, all you guys, thanks for your TVC reviews and news, as it is helpful. Can't wait to have a Balin skull. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that, and I'm sure the guys appreciate you as well. All right, let's stop sharing this, and let's do it.
Tonight, we are going to witness the most anticipated match. Let's get ready to rumble!
Yeah. Love it.
So then, guys,
Can we ask Lewis what he thinks is going to go down? Should we?
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a really hard call. That's going to be a really hard call because I struggled between these four anyway. I mean, I'm probably going to annoy a lot of people here, but Hammerhead was not in contention for me again, just because he's in that category of, we have other figures. But for me, the other three, I don't know. This could go either way. This could go any way, really. But I see a lot of support for Hammerhead as well.
Nice.
See, this is why it would have been good if Brett could have filled in for me, because he would have joined Lewis on the anti-Hammerhead. We already have one. Go on to something else.
I'll happily take a new one. I mean, I would love a new one. Don't get me wrong, but to me, he's a long way down my list, and that's where I sit with it, really.
Okay, right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to reveal them. We're going to have two matchups again. So there's 4 characters left. We've got Hammerhead, we've got Cobb Vanth, we've got the Tonica Sisters, and we've got Balin. We're going to do 2 matchups, revealing them that way. So the first one we're going to do is who is it, John? It's Hammerhead versus Cobb, isn't it?
Correct.
So this isn't. We must stress as well. This isn't the order that they were in. We've just put it in for to hype it up, basically.
Dramatic effect.
Dramatic effect. Yeah, that's it. Whether it actually achieves that or not is another matter, but we like it. So, right, let's do it. Should we do the first one?
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay, then, guys. Here it is. This is the first matchup.
Oh,
No.
the Marshall's gone.
I obviously voted for Cobb Vanth. So.
Do you know what? I forgot to do the poll at the start, saying to ask the chat who. Instead, what I'll do is I'll say who had Hammerhead in their top 10. Then we'll see how many people's had Hammerhead from the very start. Let me just get to my channel.
Yeah, I had I had all 4 of these in my top 10.
Oh, that doesn't help the rig comments, John. You keep
I
that on
know.
the down low.
I know. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. I'm paying the Google form to vote for everyone. But yeah, well, at San Diego Comic-Con, I spoke to the team, and they asked me what one of my biggest wants was, and I actually mentioned Cobb Vanth over all of these figures. Just I think he's just sorely missed from the line, and obviously wearing that gear, gives me all the feels. So
just remember, when they do make him now, we know it's going to be not deluxe because he has the armor, the assembly, and the paint apps. It's going to be super duper deluxe.
Super
the new expression.
Yeah, newly tooled. He's going to have everything, isn't he? He's going to have
yeah, all that armor wear is going to be super duper duper deluxe.
Yeah, they'll do a 2-pack, $40 2-pack, and one will just have his armor, and the other will have the figure.
Well, they could put him on a speeder, and then we could just pay $150 for him or something.
Yeah, problem solved.
If he could come with his speeder, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
54% of the people in the chat did have Hammerhead
Close
in the top 10, which is good. So keeping the majority happy. Right, hang on. Let me just come back to this. Oh, it's just gone down. It's 50% now.
Very close.
51. Let's end that poll. That's enough data, I think. So yeah, sorry, while I was running that poll, were you talking about Cobb? Disappointed that he's gone, Lewis?
I am. I mean, again, he's one of those figures that when The Mandalorian aired, you thought he was be one of the first ones we'd get, really. I mean, again, you sort of look at the characters and the ones that make most sense to make figures out of, and yet he's just slipped. You know, we've gone along all this way and we still nothing. It's quite strange, really. I don't. Again, perhaps it goes back to what Chris was saying earlier about the tooling parts. I mean, perhaps Hasbro is just looking at him and saying, "How can we make this work for the price?" I don't know. But yeah, I think he's desperately needed.
Made it work for the Black Series, didn't they?
Wow. Yeah, exactly that. Exactly.
I struggle with that because I feel like that VC 186 figure. I mean, I don't know if Patrick's saying there was a certain amount of the orange blister card back that made it out there, helped us all buy. Everyone was buying pallets at that point for Fett, but that was a pretty successful figure, and it still goes for, I think, well over its whatever $13 or $12.99 price it had at the time. Don't they think of these Fett type figures and think like that should sell a ton of figures? Maybe it's worth it. I don't know how the Black Series ones did, by the way. So
I think John brought up the orange card just so he can get me and Tim fighting again. Because as we all know, Tim is the only reason we do not have that orange card.
Mustard yellow.
Well, it wasn't just the orange card, though, was it? It was the chest readout and then the Wookiee braids. I mean, that had so many things that people were chasing on that figure.
Yeah, that's true.
Pallets.
Chris always blames me for this when he knows full well it had nothing to do with me. It's Patrick's fault. He said there was some made. So
ironically, it's actually more the fault of that person that claims credit for everything. It's truly to blame.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was one of the people that said, I would prefer it to be on the actual proper card.
There you go.
I don't think I had too much influence on it, to be honest.
You wanted those cartoon pants really badly. You had to have it.
But I do think that they did sell more Fets because people did think that orange one was going to be out there because Patrick said, I think some of them have made it out the factory. Everyone's like, Marion, where is it?
6 of them. They were the Wonka golden tickets. So you had to buy cases to
people were buying some from Hong Kong and Taiwan and America and UK trying to get one. And no one's ever seen them. So, he lied. So I reckon there was a mistake. I think he was referring to the chest readout because that is something that got changed pretty quick, wasn't it? So that some made it out without the chest readout. So, but yeah, we haven't got either of the Cobb Vance, have we? Like the Book of Boba Fett one either. Jason, has the Black Series got both? Have they also got the they have?
Yep.
Right.
I'm looking at them over there right now.
Chris is going to tell me why I'm asking stupid questions again.
And they're great, they spared no expense on those. Both versions, they share legs for the most part. It looks like there's some slight tweaks, to remove. Yeah, but I mean, it's the armorless version. He's got all the, it's a newly tooled torso and arms, and it's just the new scarf. They gave us the full version. It came in a deluxe pack with Cad Bane, and those did hit clearance briefly because I picked up a second set when they were dirt cheap, half price or less. But yeah, I don't know. You would think with as much as they were cranking out Fett stuff at the time that we could have got a Cobb Vanth pretty easily, at least armored.
Did you find him at Target on clearance?
Yeah.
I never find Star Wars on clearance at
So
I did see the Fets, the colored, the comic ones,
right.
briefly, but I don't see very much going to clearance at my Target, unfortunately.
Well, I have dozens of Targets within,
Okay.
30 minutes of where I live, so I could, I live in Target home base, so it's pretty easy to
Gotcha.
find clearance.
Well, it's good. It's good that I mean, obviously, he made the top 10. He made it to the final 4. And Lewis, do you recall? I know he did pretty well in the March Madness.
He came in about, I think, on the original list. I've got it. I did have it here actually because I was just out of curiosity. On the original list, yeah, he came in 6th, so he was 6th seeded. Obviously, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how he got through the the brackets because, as we said before, people change ideas or they back different horses. But yeah, he's been up there, and I think he's one of those characters that's been there every year. So
yeah,
people are still going to ask for him.
I'm pleasantly
Question
surprised.
for the boys on the panel: out of Bale and Skull and Tonicas, who would you choose out of interest?
We'll get there.
Find out here in a minute.
Yeah,
we will cross that bridge momentarily.
Yeah, because we can sort of reveal some of the stats now, can't we? Like, not necessarily where the other winner is versus the winner of these two, but in terms of the maybe how far the two losers were away from the two that go through. We can talk about that sort of thing, can't we? A little bit, because that won't influence anything going forward, will it?
Well, I can say that Cobb Vanth, he was number 3 out of the 4,
Right?
And they we'll just say the 2 winners, pretty much 1 out of every 2 people picked them. So not as close for the losers, but we'll get into that. We can get into that more after we reveal the others, so we're not I don't screw this up.
No. Well, we've been going 53 minutes. I'm not too sure how long we're going to go on after we've revealed. Depends if we run out of things to talk about. But should we do it? Should we get on with it? Should we show the next one? Let's do it.
Roll it.
Are you going to vote? Are you going to vote, Tim?
Oh, are we doing a vote?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Lewis. So I'll do a poll for who they think is going to win, shall we? Who will win? And it's out of it's Balin and Tonicas, isn't it? Okay, here we go. The poll is going. So, who do you guys think is going to triumph and get into the final against Snailhead?
I can't see past that. There's the Snailhead.
60% say Tonicas at the moment.
Oh, vote.
59 going down.
I know, John, very early on in this, you said that Balin could well end up winning it, didn't you? And I think I agreed. I agreed with that. For me, I thought from the outset I could see him running it. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I still see him as a pretty big front runner in March Madness as well. Just as a guess.
I thought he was going to win the whole thing too at the onset.
59% people think that the Tonikas, and that's why it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think at the beginning you think who the clear favourite in your mind is going to be based on whatever, but then as people get knocked out, the strength of another candidate increases, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
And I think, was it last week where you had Shin and Ventress? Were they still in it last week? You kind of felt that they were splitting the votes, so that some of the others were, you could see, like the OT people that are more OT orientated were jumping on those. Whereas I think Shin and Ventress may have been splitting the votes with some of the more, Clone Wars fans and that sort of thing.
Yeah, great.
You might tell me I'm wrong with the facts, but that's it. You kind of got that impression.
So the poll, I'm going to end it now, but 59% of the people think that the Tonikas are going to win. So let's find out, shall we? This is Balin Skoll versus the Tonika sisters.
Oh,
Surprised.
59% of the people were correct. And we have a final now. Let me just pull this image up so we can see what we are talking about.
yeah,
Like a little engine that could.
definitely didn't see it turning out like this. I think we started to see it, right? Maybe the last round. Those of us that have seen some of the numbers behind the scenes. There it is. Some Cantina love.
Cantina Showdown, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
OT comes through.
OT.
So, everybody has had a chance to vote on this. This is just the way that it's come out. We asked for your top tens. Nearly 1,500 people submitted their top tens, which created the top 10 for Last Figure Standing. And then it's been up to the community to vote the way they have. And these are the last two. So the final is between Hammerhead and the Tonika sisters, two Cantina patrons, two OT characters, or three, if you count the Tonika sisters as two. So yeah, interesting.
I think it's safe to share a little now. What John was saying, share some behind the scenes. So Balin was the number one vote getter for the nomination phase. He got the most nominations when we asked for people's top 10. So this is kind of
interesting,
wild. And then the swings from week to week, kind of what Lewis was talking about, where people get bumped out and then you see a swing go another way. John, correct if I'm wrong, Balin was number one last week as well.
No.
I'm pretty sure he got the most votes last week, and now he gets eliminated.
Let me bring it up. I don't believe he did, but
he didn't? Okay. Well, it was a good story.
I think he may have done up until maybe that week. So the top 10 and then the first week for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think privately we were saying Balin's going to run away with it, weren't we?
No, Balin was number one. He was number one.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, see? Don't trust me. You got it. Yep. You're right. My bad.
So he went from number one to out in 1 week.
Yeah. And sorry, John, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, Cobb Vanth beat him out by, 10 or so votes too. So he was technically the bottom right this week. Right. And like I said, our top two got 50% of the votes. I can say this too, that Tonikas and Hammer as a vote each for each submission, 400 submissions had those two as their picks. Right. So they picked those two together.
Mm.
We had 1,252 submissions. So it did drop we did drop about 250 responses, and obviously that's Tyler used a good term last week. I forgot what he said, but or 2 weeks ago. Excuse me. How people tend to trail off if they lose interest in who's in the who's still in it.
Thank you, Scott. I promise you we will. We'll have a quick. Thank you for reminding us about that. Actually, yeah, we'll talk about the Q&As. So I just want to reiterate to everybody watching that, you know, we have been so careful not to influence anyone's decisions, but by revealing, for example, what we're talking about right now, that Balin was sweeping the floor, throughout this thing. We thought that he was going to go on and win, and had we sort of revealed that, then obviously, that can work in either way, can't it? People can think, oh, well, he's safe. Other people are voting for him. I don't need to vote for him, even though I want him, or whatever, whichever way that people think, or I need to vote him to keep him there, or whatever people's thinking. We haven't revealed any of that. So, because we didn't want, that exact thing to happen. And I think we've, what we're seeing here is just basically the majority of what people want. So,
it's gonna be tough picking one over the other here.
What I like is that we, the last 2 weeks we've had themes. This week for this voting, it was old school versus new school. They had the voting. Now for the finals, we have an 096er versus a no 96er going head to head.
Yeah. Marco Martinez, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. He says, I don't understand. My daughter voted for Balin because she will buy him. She does not know who the Tonica sisters are. Who you guys voted for? Again, I don't know whether if we say that now, does that influence? It could potentially influence, couldn't it? Maybe, I think. Yeah. So we'll definitely reveal. I mean, I'll be completely open about that. Once the finals happen, for sure. Because remember, you could vote for up to however many you could in each round. You didn't. What was the first round? Was it pick 5? Wasn't it? Pick 5 of the 10, and the top 6 went through. But you didn't have to pick 5. You could just pick 1. So if you really wanted one to go through, without giving the others votes, you could be tactical like that. I guess whether people did that, I don't know. But so yeah, I'm sure we'll reveal all of that next week. I'm not going to lie. I'm not disappointed with who's in the final. But saying that, originally all 10 of the ones that are on the list I do want. There wasn't one that was on the top 10 that I did not want as a figure. And to be honest, when we looked at the top 30 or whatever, which again we will reveal all of that kind of stuff, most of those I wanted as well. So it's difficult.
I have to say, today's show, this has been the best comments I've seen since we've been doing this. I'm kind of off in left field because I'm just reading getting a chuckle out of the comments.
Well, in what way? What you're saying? People are happy, or
the bickering going back and forth, and then some of the jokes. There was one in response to the super chat. I don't know, John, if that's what you were laughing at too. Let's see if I can find it now. Mitchell Gum from 10, I think it would be 11:03 your time, Tim. 11:03, yeah.
Okay.
Mitchell Gum.
Very good. Very good.
Mitchell. What's up, buddy? We get a lot of comments too about, well, they're never going to make these Tonica sisters, so you're just wasting your votes. And I don't think collectors should look at it like that. It should still send a message to Hasbro that if you want the Tonicas, then you should vote for them. You shouldn't have to, not vote for them if, people are thinking that they're never going to get made. So,
well, who thought we'd ever get a Velkin or a Tamgren?
right.
You could have asked people years ago and they would have said, yeah, no chance. We've had a lot of background characters though. Why not? Why not these?
Yeah, I think Victoria has expressed at nauseum how there's everything's been, clarified, and Angela's on board, and that all of that legality stuff. But it's interesting, right? Yeah, we have two backgrounds, three backgrounders, right? One's an alien, original 96er, like Chris was saying. And then you have a never been made before character debut humans, Cantina characters. So
people might be looking at Hammerhead in terms of what else they could do with that as well.
Yeah,
there's
that's true. I think
three or four characters you can get out of him. So
yeah, it does sway people, doesn't it? That way. I was just thinking with this year has been the year of the 2-pack. I mean, we've had what three or four 2-packs now. The Tonicas are perfect for one of those 2-packs, really, aren't they? So it could be their year.
I just want to address this quick. Ponkrell, he's been doing well in all the polls for a few years. Think he'll ever get done, much to Tim's disgust. The thing is, right, I mean, have a look at that Django Fett. How much is Ponkrell going to cost? Like, he'll be like $30, man. Do something ridiculous like that. 4 lightsabers. Did he have lightsabers? Yeah. Did he have lightsabers? I can't remember.
Yeah.
He did, didn't he? Yeah. He's definitely got 4 arms, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's one of those weird Obi-Wan characters, isn't he?
Yeah. Where's Mr. Johnny Mustache with a breakdown of his species and what size underwear he wears and all sorts of other stats.
So I know a lot of people are saying like they'll never get into the Tonica sisters, never get made, if they win. From the response from the brand team that we get, they know people want them, but they tell you it's a dead end and don't ask and things like that. That to me tells me it's coming from, and I think we all know this, it's coming from outside the brand team. The no on this, it's not their decision. Well, something like this gives them ammo. The fact that they're in the finals gives them ammo to maybe push through that wall finally when they go to whoever they need to ask permission for to get this done, to be able to get it done.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a bit funny with the Tonica sisters because that super chat saying his daughter doesn't know who they are. There was even people on Twitter today replying to the tweet that I put out just advertising this stream, saying I don't get why people want the Tonica sisters or whatever. And I was going to reply to saying, at Victoria's Cantina, can you answer this? Because she'd be much better at saying the reasons why. When we had her on the stream last week, she put a very, very good case for why, much better than I could. And I agree with everything. That she said about them.
With them too. I mean, we're all the age where we can remember, when you're figuring out what figures you wanted, you were pausing the VCR and looking through the scene and trying to figure, we need this. You don't need to pause to see the Tonica sisters. You can see them in real time. It's not a pause and seek character. You can see them in real time, prominently right there in the cantina. A couple times.
Yeah. Compared to some of the others which have been made. Yeah. We're literally on the screen for a couple of seconds, right? Or half a second or what.
What was his name? Ellis Hellrot from 30th anniversary collection. I think he's like a smudge in the back of one frame in the movie.
Yep.
Yeah. The one that pops up at the very beginning with that's what's his name? Oh, God. He's got the weird. He's almost got like hammerhead style feet, isn't he? What's he called? Hems something.
Oh, Hem Dazon, the head on the stick, the first one that's actually in focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So is he? Do you see him? Apart from that one bit, do you see him?
No.
Again, he's been made, hasn't he? So it's like.
I mean, he was kind of prominent. He was often because that is the first in focus.
It is, yeah, but you don't see his body or anything, do you? You know.
Somebody from the UK asked how Lisa Serlin, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Yarna did in the US. Lisa did well. Yarna was an epic peg warmer. It's Matthew Brazier at 1109.
Where's my girl Yarna?
Yeah. Yarna was found years and years later.
Yeah.
On the peg still, much like Lando.
Yeah. So Lisa did well, but that stuff didn't ship very heavily. She might have made it into those 2-packs at the end. Remember when the Red Legacy collection? Yeah, they had those 2-packs. She might have ended up in those, but that stuff didn't ship very heavily. So, I mean, it was never a peg warmer, but yeah, Yarna was still found after the 2009 Legacy collection was already moved out of stores. Yarna was still hanging around. She was from the 2008.
So those 2-pack things that were stuck together, was that not a retailer thing then? That was done. They were shipped in cases like that, were they?
I think it was I think they were only available at Walmart. I don't know when that gluing was done.
Yeah.
And Walmart had other ones like that where for some reason they'd glue these multi-packs together. They had the Black Friday 8-pack of figures, and they glued those in as well. So if you wanted to get it to pop out
Nice one, Chris. 96p. You got a bargain there. You can still get it really cheap on eBay. Like
I was going to say, she doesn't go for a lot now, does she?
No.
The other one that was a Legacy Collection peg warmer was Malakili, the Rancor Keeper.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
I found, but he's actually gone up in value on the secondary market.
Yeah, he's really expensive.
Yeah.
Tough one to get. Yeah. But they almost create the market for it with the things that they've maybe brought out in the, since TVC's come back.
Yeah.
As you say, like when they brought the barge out and that, they should have brought out more of the goons and more of that sort of stuff at the time.
Absolutely.
Thanks, JD. Appreciate that, buddy.
Buy yourself the Yarna with that one.
Yeah, I can actually. Yeah, I've already got one though. She's there. I have her facing away though. I can't look at her. Yeah. She faces Jabba. Jabba enjoys her. So.
She's got a face only a mother can love.
Christopher Guzman says, I got her check for Cal Fass yesterday for $50. That ain't a bad price for him either.
No.
Like, he's expensive. You did all right there, but like that's the ridiculous thing, isn't it?
As the Kiwi man pointed out, the #1 baby name in New Zealand, right there.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
I still that one.
Should we let's just stop sharing this. So first of all, you've got 1 minute, Chris, until your article goes live, right?
I already made it live.
Okay, I'm posting on Instagram right now.
Right. So just to let you know that the voting is open for this, and we'll be doing the final live stream a week on Saturday, a week today actually. So that's the 23rd, I think, to reveal the winner of Last Figure Standing. It's been great fun doing it. I hope everybody's in the community that's taken part has enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed hosting it. But yeah, go off and do your voting, or well, don't leave the stream, but the voting's there for you to do. It'll be up all week. We'll be promoting it all week, and hopefully we'll get a good turnout for it. John, I think we did see a slight downturn in votes, but not a huge drop off from the previous weeks, have we? It's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, still well over 1,000. You know, again, 1,250. I think we just got just over 1,500 the time before. So, you know, probably some people really wanting to see some of that newer media stuff, but you know, still please participate and, you know, vote on, you know, these regardless if you want them or not. I think it still sends a message as to, you know, what you're interested in over the other.
Yeah. Yeah, because somebody asked me on one of my Q&A videos whether we could do more of these, but split them into like movies and medias and things like that. And I think I answered it like because not just the amount of work that would be required to go into it, but I think it's a little bit dangerous because obviously a lot of people would vote in each one, right? But then let's just say the winner of the Phantom Menace poll, how do you sort of quantify that against, you know, what people actually want? Because they can only do a certain amount of figures a year, can't they? So
right,
it would be quite, I don't know. I quite like this where it's a mix. At the very beginning, you are able to vote all Phantom Menace figures if you want, if that's what you want. And if enough people do that, then they will make it into the top 10. So that's kind of how I feel about it, really. I do think something like this could be done for like vehicles and play sets and things like that to find out what the community want 100%. And it's something that I put forward to you guys, Lewis, you know, obviously noting the fact that it is a lot of work for everybody involved.
We spoke about it. I think the difficult, and I know you guys have said it as well, difficulty with vehicles is just how you put something large like a Falcon up against a speeder bike. You know, it's figure for figure is much easier to gauge. And I think that's where we've looked at it and just thought, it's how do you do that? Unless you try and categorize them, but even then you're already skewing things before you
you're
start.
pigeonhole people then, aren't you? You say even if you said, you know, pick 4 large, 3 medium, and have, you know, whatever, however many the initial number you want to get, you are sort of, you know, almost helping them decide.
And I think we even did one where we looked at play sets, and we sort of tried to say to people, what would you like to see in that $50 range? You know, so like the Tantive set, or you know, those modular ones, rather than anything like the throne room. But I think the 5 that ended up winning they were much bigger. They were bigger sets. They were sets that you couldn't do for $50. You know, I think it was the Ewok Village came up as one, the Star Destroyer Bridge. And so again, it's people's imaginations start to go a bit wild, don't they? And it's hard to say to someone, look, rein it in and stick to something like a Death Star wall, which is the most obvious one if you're looking at another $50 set. But you know, and again with vehicles, you get some people will say, well, I'd take a U-wing. I'll take a U-wing for $100. But there'll be other people say, well, no, I want it as a HasLab because it needs to be done properly. And it's that it's hard, isn't it, to even categorize them in cost.
Yeah, it's difficult, very difficult. And then where do beasts fit in with vehicles, and you know,
exactly.
Thanks, JD. We need 6 to 8 Cantina aliens for a smaller HasLab. Yeah, it's certainly an idea. Or even if you know, if they were to do like a maybe like the first set of it that they bring out is one size, and then they bring out other like battle packs or something with another bit of it and some other character, whatever, you know. Could do. There's loads of different ways they could do a cantina. So let me just stop sharing this. Yeah, so it's the voting's open, everybody. And as I say, we'll be doing something next week, announcing who's won. Shall we? Right, so we've been going an hour and 20 minutes. Let's spend the next 10, 15 minutes before we go just talking about the Q&As, if you don't mind. The one thing I'll say before I get your opinions on them is that we all asked the similar questions. I felt there was a lot of repetitive things. And in previous ones, we have conferred more and tried to make sure that we hadn't done that. But I think you said as well, Chris, which I agree with. Sometimes it's a good thing that these things get repeated because it does reinforce the issue. And the one that sticks out for me is the 4-pack issue, and how they're constructed and not having named characters in them. I think it was asked pretty much in every session that I watched anyway, which obviously is going to hit home. What I was a little bit worried about that is that I don't. People are like, oh, but I want some of these characters that are never going to be carded, and absolutely, I totally agree with that. But I think they should, there should be a difference between an army builder pack and like a character pack. Basically, a character pack should be 4 characters. If you take the Imperial officers as an example, with the briefing room, or 4 ISB officers, you could get your Larin and the other guy from Andor, maybe the one that's the defector, the one in disguise with the moustache. Just as an example, that'd be like a character pack. Maybe none of those would be big enough characters to get onto a card. Maybe your Larin, maybe, I don't know. But and then you have your true army builder packs. Your 4 501st troopers, where everyone can just buy as many of those as they want. That's how I feel about it. I don't know about you.
To me, that's exactly what they should do. And I think Hasbro will end up netting out the same, because if you have the character package, you're calling it, it's going to appeal to more collectors. It's going to get a broader appeal. People, oh, here's 4 characters I can get. The army builder packs are going to appeal more to the hardcore collectors, but they're going to buy a lot of them. So you get the sales either way by doing it either way. You're either going to sell fewer to more people or a lot to fewer people. Yeah.
It was interesting in mine that Chris actually said, maybe we pushed it too far with Enoch. So that does say a lot to me. Like, they're trying to make them, maybe they're not confident enough in that there's that many army builder people out there. I don't know. And they have to put a character in there so everybody buys at least one. Maybe they think they're going to sell that more that way than, there being 1,000 Tylers out there that are going to buy pallets and pallets of them,
Oh, and he will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So maybe
there was. Chris did say on one of those, and I'm not sure if it was our one or someone else's question around that, but it kind of suggested like they'd already made up the pack without knowing who Enoch was, because he almost sort of suggested, well, we didn't know he was going to be a named character. So I don't know if he was almost suggesting that he thought he was going to be just like a lieutenant or something like that, where they thought they could slip him in. But to me, he's clearly an individual character, whether they knew enough about him or not. He's got a specific look. So unless they genuinely thought there was going to be more than one of those, I don't know. But that's the impression I got from one of those answers he gave on that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because they've got them out quite quickly, haven't they? I mean, they must be working on these, back when they just had images rather than actually seeing the shows. So, I mean, I'm not, not sticking up for him in any way or anything like that, but just that was the impression I got on one of his answers.
Can I make a comment in general about the Q&As?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. If anybody's, in the chats or listening, and you also participate in these Q&As, if your question starts, what's the one thing, yada, 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 please stop. Stop with these. What's the one thing you would really like to do? What do you like to do on rainy days? If the questions can't be probative and get some information or make a point on behalf of the community, give the questions to somebody else, please. I'm so sick of these what's the one thing questions. I think we heard 50 of them this round, and it was actually making it hard for me to pay attention.
It amazes me, Chris, that you get fan sites that have been around for a long while who still say, are we going to get this character? I know sometimes it's a leading thing because they just want to get it out there that character's wanted, but they know what the answer's going to be.
I mean,
why bother?
We did that for like 5 Q&As in a row about the Emperor just to be obnoxious.
Just to hit it home. Yeah. Yeah. I mean that is a bit annoying, but it's nowhere near as annoying as what's the best thing you've worked on, or what's the one character that you would love that if there was nothing holding you back, or that you would want made. I mean, I think save that for face-to-face conversations at conventions and stuff, where you're having like a conversation with them, basically. As you say, I'm not telling people what to do in these things, but it does seem a little bit wasted. And let's face it, they record these things and they ask, they know we're going to put them out, so it's for the community, isn't it? That's what it's for. So yeah. What about you, Johnny? You didn't attend yours, did you, actually?
Yeah, Augustine was there on our behalf, and I'll be honest, I haven't listened to all of the Q&A sessions. I did hear quite a bit from my friends in the community about them. I did watch yours, Lewis. I still have to watch your guys' one, but you come away sometimes feeling frustrated and defeated. I know we kind of anticipate some of the answers that are gonna happen, but specifically for us, just we asked on behalf of the community about the silver paint apps on the phase 2 clone trooper set coming out, right, with the 501st, the 2 white clones, and the 332nd. So yeah, the fins on the mouthpiece, and the silver paint apps on the mouthpiece, and then also in the breathing circles and mouth speaker. And someone might have to help me with how Chris responded to it, but he basically said that was not going to be applied, and that the price point is where they landed on what we're getting. Yeah. So Chris, help me out there. You and I talked about it a bit.
I can't remember the word that they used, but it was
basically to keep the price down, wasn't it?
Was it concessions or something like that? Or I can't remember. He did use a word, and it reminded me of the first ever pack that we got with the Stormtroopers, and how that they just seemed a little bit cheaper than the ones you got on the card, the Rogue One ones, like the joints. I think a few people got ones with two left hands and things like that. Obviously there's a lot more volume going on. There's 4 in a pack. There's more chance of a mistake, I guess. But the paint apps on those were really bad, weren't they? On a few people had some really sort of wonky eyes and things like that. It just didn't seem like. Yeah.
Right. And we're not trying to nitpick here, right? We're talking about paint apps that have been on Stormtroopers for forever. Since like the early 2000s at the very least. So that was a bit frustrating to hear.
But for me, the cost cutting. Sorry, Tim.
No, you go ahead, mate. You go ahead.
I say the cost cutting though is a bit prohibitive on an army builder, because I think it makes people hold back a bit. Because if you see that that's not a definitive clone because it's missing those pieces, does it make people think, well, okay, I might pick up a pack or two, but I'm not going to go mad, because hopefully down the line we'll get that with those paint apps. So it's a bit, it causes their own problems. And again, we saw it with the 212 pack, where initially it didn't have the brow, and I think a lot of people sat back and just didn't buy that because people were just didn't want to see something that wasn't accurate. And again, even with the clones with the squished helmets and the flat helmets, I haven't gone mad on those, because again, I just thought wait for him to get it right.
You know, we've received these figures already with the, you know, the skinny jean legs.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
your favorite trooper to
Yeah.
you know, with the, so we've already paid for those. We already gotten those. Now we're getting these, and they, you know, they fix the helmets. Obviously, a great question asked by Chris and you know, Vance Call and Jason Attewell there, to talk about, you know, that they redesigned it obviously because it doesn't have a head underneath and it looks more more accurate. And they just again, this is a premium line. We should have premium paint apps. It's tough to swallow these answers sometimes.
Right. You know, and when they issue their, you know, their press release material for a lot of this, they specifically call out, you know, the paint apps being premium and stuff like that. And that's pretty standardized across every vintage collection product they issue. And if they're going to cut back, then can you say that? You know, especially when they're all, they're supposed to be uniform, you know, can you really claim that? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know how much nixing those two tiny paint apps saves, you know, in that pack.
Right.
Isn't that pack's a bit cheaper anyway, isn't it?
$54.99, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 212 was $59.99, I think.
Yeah.
So is that $5 worth of paint?
So is that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Wax's extra paint was $5.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think sometimes the answer comes around, you know, if people clamor for, you know, wanting those missing paint apps and they can't be afforded at that certain price point, you know, sometimes it comes back as, well, what do you want, or what do you want to lose if you want those paint apps on this figure? Why does that have to be the choice? Like,
Yeah.
can we, you know, there's different ways of, instead of having that unique clone in there or officer or whatnot, you know, have it be a true army builder pack to cost average out that pack to be less, but have them all be accurate.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, which a few people have brought up in the chat, RKW is the first person, and Keith Bellavia is another person, and it's about this. Did anybody see the answer about that?
Yeah. And Jason, wasn't this on your top 10?
It was on.
It was, yeah.
This worried again. This is something that really worried me. I think Chris said, was it Chris? Yeah, because I think he said, not the Chris that's with us now, Chris the designer. He said, I don't even think we could even reissue this figure now. Because of the whatever the regulations are regarding minimal thicknesses of plastic and whatever these things are, because of the, you know, these things. I mean, these are super thin, granted, but I just find it weird when they've done it. Like they could, you know, it's already sculpted. It's, you know, they've whatever, you know, if they've reissued things before, they've just reissued them. And that you know, this is one of the 96s, and this is one that we discussed with you, Jason, who's on your, you know, saying that this theoretically should be an easy one for them to do, like
straight
a cheap
up reissue,
one for them to do. And that just, I'm like, no, what's going on here, you know? So I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
It's really disappointing. You know, it's granted there's a lot of pieces involved in that figure, but all of the arms are, I mean, as far as I can remember, they're all the same ones that go around the whole body.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're having unique tooling for each single arm. You know, you might have multiple molds of the same thing, you know, just to get them produced faster. You know, if you couldn't fit all of the arms in one mold, let's say. But, you know, that's me speaking, not knowing how the manufacturing process goes. But it is it's one piece replicated, 10 times or however many arms there are going around. It's not a lot of, extra in that regard. It's not a lot of unique tooling. So and I'm just kind of scanning around, looking at things on my shelf as far as what other pieces do we get that have thin tolerances like that, that they have no problem producing for that type of a figure, but then we can't get it for a figure they've done before. And obviously they don't grandfather in anything if they can't reissue something like that, which is, again, it's odd that we don't know that they can't, before questions like that come up, is like, oh, can we get this figure? Oh, we can't even make something like that anymore. It's like, it'd be interesting if they could be more forthright, I guess, in that regard, is the type of figures they can and can't make. But
because this was Power of the Jedi, what, 2001 was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
But they reissued it. They have already reissued it. They brought it out in a 3-pack TVC 1.0 in 2011 or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
So something's happened between, it's not since 2001. Something's happened in the last 10, 12 years, isn't it? That's stopping them doing this sort of thing.
Right.
Did anyone check the price of them on eBay after Chris made that comment?
Somebody said in the comments that, yeah. Did they fly out?
I didn't. I was curious to know if anyone had noticed it, because
somebody said in the chat then that they went sky high, and you would imagine they would, wouldn't you? Because TVC's come back. Whether they've said or not that they're finishing the 96, I'm sure they had it written in that Kenner style at some point on one of their things. They haven't said that they're going to do it or anything, but we look at these things in terms of, like, the Rancor Keeper, easy one for you to do. Just get that one out on a card, job done. The Ugnaught. Why didn't you bring out the Ugnaught on a card in the carbon freezing chamber set instead of the Stormtrooper that we didn't need? Just think, that characters from the Legacy Collection or whatever. And then this is another one of those. It's like it already exists. Nobody particularly thinks that you could probably better that. It's just a droid that stands there. So yeah, it's,
and they're hinged arms, right? It's not like there's elbows on there. It's just they're thin, and you snap them into a hinge.
They come out like that, and they
yeah.
In fact, that one doesn't want to move, but
don't break it.
Yeah,
Don't break it.
That one goes. There you go.
Oh, do they have elbow? Okay, crap.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
I
each
forgot
one.
about that.
Yeah.
But it's just a simple hinge, John. To your point, it's not like
It's just two flat planes
Yeah.
going
Two flat
together.
planes. Yeah. So
I wonder what that does then. If plastic tolerances and whatnot is a thing, does that rule out then getting a retro collection one? Like, would that just not ever be something they can get to? I mean, because everyone wants more Empire figures for those that collect retro collection. That's been
because the original vintage one, they're quite thin. They haven't got a hinge, but they're still quite thin, isn't it? That bit of white plastic. I'm just looking at it. Looking it up there. Yeah.
And there's fewer. There's only 8 or
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny. Quite a bit of information. That's the thing with these Q&As. A lot of people think, they're a waste of time. Nothing. But we,
that was a good get.
we hear these little things and just think, well, okay, disappointing, but
it just seems to come down to the cost of these things and probably price points. So it's a shame that they're not willing to get these types of thicknesses down to what we ideally want. We're seeing that with saddlebag holsters and all other things. Chopper doesn't have elbows as well, and swivel wrists. even hinged wrists on some of the smaller figures, right? We're seeing that on some of the female characters that I think we used to see before. Moff Gideon, some other characters have pretty small hinged wrists. Some of them, not all of them, do have them, but there are figures with very small hinged wrists. So it's.
So what about this for an alternative? Make that figure like before, except for don't have all of the arms be able to come out, and have some of the arms swappable. So, you know, you have they're all straight, and let's say 3 or 4 of them are able to come out that you could put bent ones in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Got you.
does that
Kinda like
alleviate a parts issue, of articulation issue, and a wall thickness issue? You know, does that?
It's kind of a bit like the backpack they've put on the Hu Yang figure, isn't it?
That's
Where
what I was just thinking. Yeah.
It's not articulated, and perhaps that is the reason why they haven't articulated it. Although that's a lot fatter, to be fair, in terms of plastic.
Yeah, I just think it's coming down to cost and what they're willing to, the waste they're willing to pay for. So, you know, scrap waste.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm just quickly. There's, you know, we've got like assembly costs and paint apps and all this kind of stuff, but this one's already tooled up, right? They've reissued it once, so but we always talk about, you know, tooling budget and stuff. So, you know, it's that would take a big chunk of the cost out, right? Wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
But then he wasn't using cost per se. I mean, I'm sure the cost is an issue.
I think with that one,
regulations, which I'm not quite sure.
Possibly, yeah.
What there doesn't meet a regulation that did back in 2011, but I suspect cost is a big factor.
Yeah, I think he said something about, you know, certain factories don't do it anymore and stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, I know when you're saying about the wrists, I know on one of the figures, which came out recently, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was on. We featured it on the SWTBC page, and people were saying, why hasn't this got hinged wrists? I can't remember which figure it was now. And Carter, who was one of the sculptors at Hasbro, is very active on the social sites. Had said, look, we really tried to get hinged wrists on this, but we couldn't get it to work for the factory, you know. And you have to say something has changed in that production process somewhere, something they obviously are not able to do now, which they were before.
I think there's some truth to that, but there's also I think everything has a cost. You know, if you want something that small, there's going to be more molding that's going to misfire, and we're going to have to scrap and go back in, clean it out, refire it, and go again until it happens again, and we have to clean it out and then refire. And I think that's where they're coming from, is maybe factories are saying this is going to be more costly now with this, and if you're willing to pay for that, we'll do it. Or, you know, or they don't have the time in their manufacturing process. They're saying, we're not willing to do something this small anymore. I don't know.
So it's almost like, you know, maybe like, oh, if we did that, 30% of them are going to be defective or whatever, so we've got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So you got to cost that in, essentially.
Yeah, and the time. Yeah.
We've actually seen this happen before at the beginning of TVC, where we got the Hoth Leia without ankles, and Daryl Dupree said, no, we couldn't do ankles that small. But just 2 years earlier, they had done the Ahsoka and the Clone Wars line, and that has the tiniest ball jointed ankles I think I've ever seen. So it's another case where they can't do it today, but they could do it a few years ago. It's not the first time this has happened in the history of the line. Now, I was
Marco, I don't. I think it was just that they weren't, mate. They weren't.
Oh,
yeah, it was
just a joke.
No, yeah, it was a joke, but not on your children. Don't please don't take it like that. No. He's talking about the other commenter, not us.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that I assure you, I don't think they were. Okay. So any other comments about the Q&As or?
Yeah, I was just going to say that FX7 question was on our Q&A, but it was done by the Kiwi man. And I think he should fill in for me going forward from now on, because I think he had much more fun with it than I ever do. I think he did a great job on it too.
Yeah, he did.
He did. I heard somewhere that it was like 4 a.m. there for Jason. Is that right?
4:50.
Did he get up at 4? Oh, geez. Yeah. How is he that happy at 4 a.m? I mean, I'm not happy 10 in the morning. 4 in the morning.
Tuna making people get up way too early.
Well, he's a runner, isn't he? Probably already run 20 miles that morning, you know.
He was still out in the garden trying to find his Krennic.
Right, so we've been going an hour and 45 minutes now. So I think we'll bring it to an end, if that's okay, folks. We've gone through a lot today, which is great. Not just about the last figure standing, which is what this thing is initially for, but of course we do want to talk about other stuff as well, especially when there has been a reveal and a set of Q&As in the week leading up to it. So thanks once again for your time, Chris, Jason, John, and Lewis. Especially thank you, Lewis, for joining us on this week. We would love it if everybody watching right now will join us for the final next week. Make sure you put in your votes for this week as well. We will be doing all of it on social media, getting out there and everything if you haven't voted already. And somebody's asked me there, when are you doing Ask Boss Bounty 200? I'm going to do that live tomorrow. I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow. No rest for the wicked. Yeah, I'm going to do that live tomorrow. So I'll create that stream in the morning. I've got to take my boy to his football match in the morning. But then, yeah, later on in the evening, I'm going to do that live. Might get some guests on if I can, if anyone's around. But yeah, that'll be then. But yeah, thank you all for joining. Thanks everybody in the chat for joining and making it as fun as usual and commenting. And thank you for everybody that left a super chat as well. That's awesome. And don't forget as well that after the results are in next week, we have all of the data to come out from our good friend John here, who's going to be putting some data visualization together.
Thanks for sending me the data, Tuna.
I know, John. I know.
Dude.
And we also have the giveaway as well.
Yeah.
So we're doing. There's 3 prizes, wasn't there, Chris?
Yes.
That's right.
3 prizes. We're going to do 3 separate giveaways. And when should we draw that?
I think when we come back after the new year, maybe. We should do that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you to my guests once again. You can find Chris at bouncegold.com. You can find Jason at yakface.com. You can find John on the Facebook group on Facebook, obviously, TVC Facebook group. And you can find Lewis at Space Hut on Instagram or at the SWTVC on Instagram. Thank you guys. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.